Okay, it's recording. All right, so when the tape cut off a second ago, we were talking about identity, and you were just talking about your tattoos.
Yeah, I got some tattoos here. It's a middle finger and 3G RFC.
3G RFC. What does that stand for?
I'd rather not say.
All right.
I mean, it's on record.
It's on record with your criminal convictions in Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. And then before we get moving, has anyone offered you anything to sit down with us today?
I wish. No.
Has anyone threatened you if
No.
you didn't?
No.
Yeah, what caused you to come forward? I mean, you've indicated you're going to come here to
It's just
recant your
been-
testimony.
It's just been wearing on me for a long time, and the thing in the news with David, I just kind of felt their frustration a little bit, and
Who's David?
What do you mean the thing in the news with David?
David was arrested for,
Threatening public officials
Yeah.
down there?
yeah.
So what happened? How did you feel when you read that?
Actually, I was told by a family member about it, what was going on, and I just, like I said, I felt their frustration. It's been a long time, and it was a pretty bad rap to go down on, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
So at the time of Billy Lee Scott's trial, you testified against him.
I did.
Okay. And what was the gist of your testimony?
It was an eyewitness testimony that I actually witnessed Billy on top of Lisa at that party as I was leaving.
Was that testimony true?
No,
In what way wasn't it true?
I wasn't there.
You weren't where
I wasn't at the party.
at all?
No.
Did you see anything that night having to do with Billy Scott and the victim?
No, I didn't.
Why did you testify that you had seen Billy Scott that night?
It was out of revenge.
Revenge for,
Him killing a family member,
and that would be.
Rick Stoner.
And how did you? What led you to decide to testify in revenge against Billy Scott?
I was approached by Rick Stoner's mother, Judy, and she was concerned about the rest of the family doing something that would possibly regret. And she asked me if I thought I could help her pull this off, and
Let's back up. Let's make sure we're identifying all the right people. Let's start off with the family member that was killed.
Rick Stoner.
Okay. And he was killed by Billy Scott.
Right.
Okay.
He was eventually acquitted for self-defense.
Okay. And your family was upset about that he was acquitted in self-defense.
Correct.
Okay. So somebody came to
They
you.
were upset more that he had killed him because the acquittal came later on.
Okay.
After, like I said, he was eventually acquitted of that.
Okay.
In your relation to the Stoner family was that Dave Stoner had been dating your mom for a significant period of time.
At that point, about 10 years.
Okay. Okay, and so Judy Stoner approaches you, and what are the terms of the deal at that point?
She just asked me if I was aware of the Buckley case, and I wasn't at the time. I never,
Where were you when this occurred? When you were approached?
at Judy's house,
And
the Stoner family house.
okay. Do you recall the event,
Um,
the season, the anything? Do you have specific memories of the event?
It was first couple weeks. It was 2 or 3 weeks after Rick was killed.
Okay.
He was killed on April 19th, and within the first part of May, I discussed it with her for the first time. I wasn't real sure how far it would go, but she said that she could pull some strings, and asked me if I'd be willing to do it.
And again, what was
I told her I had warrants and stuff at the time, so I was concerned about obviously dealing with detectives or cops, but she said that she thought we could take care of that also, so.
Okay.
Did you have contact with the police following your conversation with Judy?
Yeah, it was within the following weeks I was contacted.
And who were you contacted by?
Frank Ford. Larry Swihart, I believe, was with him. You know what? I think the first time Frank came to see me, he was by himself. The second time he came, he had Larry with him, I believe.
Okay. Do you recall when that was?
End of May, first part of June,
Okay.
'91.
And where did you meet them at?
They came to my house.
Okay. Did you talk with them at that time?
I did.
Okay.
Was this an appointment set up in advance, or did you just they show up out of the blue?
Judy, I had talked to Judy, and she said that there were going to be some people contacting me as far as the detectives went, and like I was explaining to him earlier, they showed up quicker than I was anticipating. They were there pretty like within a few weeks or so.
Okay.
And that's when we discussed it.
And what was discussed? I mean, were you presenting it to them like you were a real witness, or was it presented that you were making it up?
And well, it was. They didn't really just come out and say that. Frank would pick me up and we went out to the lake. The thing I recall the most about it is I didn't really say a whole lot. I just listened as we walked around the lake. He told me
When you mean the lake, what do you mean by the lake?
the lake where the party took place at.
And where the death occurred, the murder
Yeah.
occurred? Okay. Had you been there before?
I had been there a couple times previously. Lived not far from there. I think that's why Judy kind of got the idea that maybe I could testify that I was there, because it happened not far from where I lived at.
Okay. So it seemed natural that you might have been just out walking around, hearing
Right.
noise, and would walk up.
Right.
Okay.
I actually testified that I walked into town that day, and then on my way home that I just went through the woods to go to that party. In hindsight, there were people at the party that I knew. I was told not to try to avoid that for reasons that those people might not verify the fact that I wasn't there or that I was there.
Okay.
Do you recall who some of those people might have been that you knew that were at the party?
It's been a long time. I know Marty Jones was a neighbor and my sister's best friend at the time. She would have obviously recognized me if I was there. There was several other people. Jason Weaver, which was a pretty close friend of mine. I actually lived with him for quite some time, that was there. He would have known whether I was there or not. The bottom line was I wasn't there.
So getting back to the officer, you said, which one was it, Frank something?
Frank Ford.
Okay, he came and took you down to the lake.
Right.
And what happened at the lake?
We parked at the gate, walked around the lake. He was just kind of chatting with me, kind of buddy, and then he started to explain to me that certain areas where people, there was a group here, there were people that were said to be here. He walked on further around the lake. He told me, he showed me the spot where the body was pulled out of the lake. Really, I just listened to him. It seems like he had some. At one point, I remember him showing me photographs. I don't know if it was at that point or at a later time, because I had met with him several times. But at one point he had showed me photographs of the party that were taken. That's obviously when I seen that there were people there that I did know, and that's when I was told to try to steer away from mentioning names, as far as, which was kind of tough to say that I was there, but not say that I didn't recognize anybody.
And who told you to steer away from that?
Well, I mentioned it to Frank, but the one that rings out to me would be Rebecca Ferguson, when I met with her the night before the trial in her hotel room.
And who was she?
Prosecutor.
That tried the case.
Right.
You met her in a hotel room.
Yeah.
For what purpose?
To discuss there were things that she wanted me to steer away from, and like I said, I recall her telling her that mentioning names, and she wanted me to try to steer clear away from mentioning names of people that I knew, for the fact that they would have known if they seen me there.
Let me just ask you this. I mean, we're going to go through this in a lot more detail, but did the cops or Rebecca Ferguson, did they know you were making this up, or was it ever discussed openly?
Absolutely, and they knew. It was discussed. I remember Larry Swihart being there, but me and Frank kind of walked off. Larry kind of dragged behind a little bit. He was involved in conversation, just small talk kind of on the way down there, but as we got there, I just recall it was me and Frank that kind of walked around the lake. But yeah, I mean, obviously I wasn't being interviewed at that point. It was more of a, they were giving me knowledge of what exactly took place out there.
What about Rebecca? Why do you say you think she knew, or do you think maybe she didn't know?
I know Rebecca knew. Rebecca didn't come into the picture until a little bit later down the road, and once I had details, I was interviewed by Rebecca, and I just recall there were several things that she didn't want me to talk about. For instance, the people that I knew that were there.
Now, when you say she didn't want you to talk about it, was she telling you just not to bring it up, or if directly asked?
Yeah, she said those are. I think her words to me were more on the lines of those. That's something we probably want to steer clear from, is trying to name people,
Okay.
people that I knew that were there. And I'm 100% sure that Rebecca knew what the deal was. She never just out and out discussed it openly with me. There were just things that she kind of wanted to hone or kind of refine a little bit as far as the testimony went, as far as not mentioning names or my past record.
And why was your past record relevant to the case?
I had a concern, obviously I had a concern that during the period the party actually took place that I might have been incarcerated.
Okay, can you elaborate that on a little bit more?
Well, to be 100% honest, I wasn't even aware of the Lisa Buckley case until I was approached by Judy, which was almost a year later. So I really had no knowledge of it. I had no knowledge of that. I had no knowledge of the party. And then when I seen the pictures, they had shown me some pictures, and I recognized people, and they didn't, that's something that they wanted to steer clear from, was mentioning names.
But the record about being incarcerated, let's go into that a little bit more. You said you're not sure if you were incarcerated then?
I believe somewhere at that point in time, I did serve a sentence. I was sentenced to a year in the Department of Youth Corrections. And
Give us as much detail as you can. What you did, where you went first, then where you were sent.
I had an extensive juvenile record, numerous felonies. I was sentenced to a year, and this is after serving jail time on several occasions in Preble County. Ultimately, I was committed to the Department of Youth Services, and I believe it's that year that I served in 1990. I recall it being summertime during that period, and I served the majority of the time in Maumee, which is up north towards Toledo. So, and I don't recall being in any winter weather. So,
It's possible it might have been the year before or something like that.
it's possible. But I was 16 in 1990. I turned 16 in January of 1990. And that's right around that time. It's right around that time.
Okay.
I couldn't be 100% sure on that. I've given it a lot of thought, but over the years, I think
Your best guess is that
it's
you were
been
locked
a long
up.
time. Yeah, I was locked up a lot, off and on, through that period, and it just seems to me that was during that period. Like I said, I wasn't even aware of the Lisa Buckley case until after Rick was killed. So.
Okay. Now, when you say that the prosecutor, Rebecca, she wanted you to steer away from that, was that because she had been made aware, you'd made her aware that you might have been locked up?
Yeah, I expressed to her that I had concerns about my record, and she said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of the record thing. There's nothing to worry about there."
Well, did you express to her, I'm worried about my record because it'll make me look bad, they'll ask me questions, or did you ever say to her, I might have been locked up when this murder occurred?
I was just concerned about the prosecution, basically tearing me apart on the witness stand.
I mean, the defense?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was extremely nervous about that.
Okay.
Going in and lying in front of a judge and jury was, at that point. And like I told Dave, I honestly wasn't 100% sure that it was going to actually happen. And then it just kept progressing, and it ultimately, it happened. So I had a lot of concerns at that point. Obviously when you're fabricating a story like that, there's concerns there. It was obvious to me that Judy, I talked to Judy pretty extensively, and she just said to just do whatever it took. Frank actually picked me up at Judy's house. She gave me some medication to take.
Who gave you some medication?
Judy.
For what purpose?
I was going to take a lie detector test. I believe it was Frank that picked me up there at Judy's.
Did he see you take the medication?
She gave it to me before he got there. He just picked me up there. She was just explaining to me that I needed to just be relaxed and focus, keep my mind clear, don't think about anything, and just answer the questions the way, without giving it thought.
What kind of medication did you take?
I believe it was Xanax or Valium or something like that. I'm not sure.
How did
Just
it make
something
you
to
feel?
relax. Just relaxed. Real relaxed. And Frank told me on the way down there to just relax and just keep your mind clear. he said, yeah, I think it seems like I remember him telling me to just focus on like an apple in my mind and keep focusing on the apple and answer the questions with my predetermined answers.
Did you pass the polygraph?
I asked Frank that when I left, and he was pretty excited. He said, "Yeah, he passed it." So
Okay.
that's what he told me. He said we passed it.
Did you ever see the results?
I never seen him myself personally. I know we drove to a prison somewhere. I think it was a prison in London or
Yeah,
Columbus.
there's a BCI polygraph station there in London.
Yeah, that's where we went. So
What was the thing that made you do this besides revenge? Did you ever get paid by anybody? Were you ever threatened by anybody?
I was compensated afterwards by Jim and Mary Buckley.
That's the victim's parents.
Right.
Did they talk to you beforehand? I mean, were they in on the fix?
I didn't talk to them beforehand, but Judy was real close with Mary. She and Judy talked about it, and there was a pretty sizable reward that they were offering for information on the case. And after it was said and done, they met me at a motel and paid me. I think it was $1,000 they paid me.
Was that cash?
I think I was telling Dave, I think it might have been a check.
And what would you have done with the check?
I cashed it.
Where would you have cashed it?
I think I cashed it. I had the motel owner at the time cashed it for me.
What was the name of the motel, if you
It
remember?
was in Glenwood there. It's something new now. It's in Glenwood, right between Eaton and Eaton and West Ellick.
Do you remember the name of it?
It seems like it was Route 35 Hotel or Plaza 35 or something. I'm not real 100% sure what the name of it was.
Were you staying there at the time?
Yeah, I was staying there.
Under your real name?
Yeah, it was either under my name or my girlfriend at the time's name,
What was her name?
Noelle Gilbert.
Noelle Gilbert.
Right. She had nothing to do with the case. She wasn't. She came along after the fact.
And when would this have been? Like what year, month that you would have?
This was actually a little bit later on because I left immediately after the trial. I left and went to actually I think I went to Florida and then Washington, but it was sometime after that. It was,
So what year approximately? 93, 94,
I think
95?
the trial actually ended in 92 or either the beginning of 90 or late 91 or early 92, and it was sometime in 92, 93, something like that.
And the check, whose account was it on? Do you remember if it was from the Buckleys?
I believe it